Hi there, and welcome to the Okie Dokies crochet tutorial for creating your very own baby booty penguin. My name is Haley, and I'm so excited to be crocheting with you today. For this tutorial, the basic stitches that you will need to know are a single crochet, increase, decrease, color changing, and our magic ring alternative, as well as a chain. If you are new to any of these stitches, you can find links to them in the videos above on this page or on the tutorials of our website. All right, if you're using the Okie Dokies crochet kit, the things that you will receive our 3 colors of our chunky chenille yarn, some safety eyes, some stuffing for your adorable penguin, as well as a crochet hook, some yarn needles, and some stitch markers. Additionally, you will need a pair of scissors that is not included in the kit, but you will need some scissors. All right. Feel free to pause or rewind the video at any point, and if you want to make any changes to your penguin, feel free to do so. And let's get right in. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with our magic ring alternative. So I like to wrap my yarn around my 2 fingers just like that, so the working yarn is back here, and then we're going to take our hook and insert it under this first loop, grab the working yarn, pull it through, and then twist to create the loop, and then you're going to grab the working yarn one more time, pull it through again. Now keeping your finger on this one nice and tight, you're going to lightly pull on that end. And you have now created a slip knot and a chain 1. And then we're going to yarn over and chain again. So now we have chain 2. Now in that second chain from the hook, so not one right here, but one more down, we're going to work 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, you can kind of pull on that yarn tail a teeny bit. It won't really go anywhere, but it might help tighten it a little bit. All right, go ahead and grab your stitch marker to mark the first stitch in the round. If you want to, you can mark the last stitch in every round, or mark, just as long as you're marking the same stitch every single time, it's not a huge deal where it goes. I like to do the first stitch in every round. All right, round number 2, we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 6 times. So our single crochet, and then our increase, remember, is just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. All right, and then just keep going, single crochet, and then our increases, single, increase, single, increase, single, increase, single, and our last increase. go ahead and move that stitch marker up. All right, round number 3, we're doing 2 single crochets and an increase, and we're repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, increase, 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 1, 2, and our last increase. Move that stitch marker. All right, round 4, we're doing 3 single crochets and an increase. We're repeating that 6 times around. 1, 2, 3, increase, 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 1, 2, 3, and our last increase. All right, move the stitch marker up. All right, round number 5, we're doing 4 single crochets and an increase, repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, and our last increase. Right, move that stitch marker. All right, round 6, we're just doing 36 single crochets around. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, round number 7, we're going to do 36 single crochets again. Go ahead and move that stitch marker. Right, round number 8, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 36 single crochets again. stitch marker. All right, round number 9, we're going to be doing 5 single crochets and then an increase, and we're repeating it 6 times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase. 1, 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 2, 3, 4, 5, increase. All right, move that stitch marker. All right, we're gonna go ahead and grab our white yarn. So we're gonna start doing our color changes for the belly on this next round. So go ahead and grab the white. And we're gonna start with the blue and then color change in the middle of the round. So make sure you've got it ready. All right, we're gonna start with 14 single crochets with our blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then on the 14th one with the blue, we're going to insert our hook and pull up a blue loop. And then we're going to start our color change. So we're going to grab our white and loop it over and then pull it through. So then that'll act as the 14th blue one. And then I'm just going to take my little white yarn and my working blue yarn, and we're just going to tie a somewhat loose knot just right at that where they meet. That way it doesn't come like unraveled or anything. All right, now we're going to continue and we're going to do 10 single crochets with the white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And on the 10th one, again, don't loop the white over, switch it over to the blue. So as you can see, I did not cut it. You can if you want to, but otherwise I just leave a little bit of a tail and just leave it attached. And then I'm not like cutting and tying a bunch of knots. So then that's our 10 with the white. And then we're gonna do 18 with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, round number 11, we're going to stick with the blue for a second and we're going to do 14 single crochets again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then remember on our 14th one, we're pulling up a blue loop, but then pulling a white loop through like that to do the color change. So that gives us 14 blue ones. And then same thing, we're doing 10 white ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then remember on the 10th one is when we're pulling up a white loop, but then switching over to our blue, and then we're going to finish it off again, 18 single crochets with the blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Perfect. Move the stitch marker. All right, round number 12. We're gonna start with 15 single crochets this time with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then on the 15th again, pull up a blue loop, but then finish with a white loop. Okay, and again, 10 single crochets with the white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then on the 10th one, pull up a white loop, finish with the blue, all right, and then finish off this round with 17 single crochets with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker up. All right, round 13, we're going to start with 10 single crochets with our blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then with our blue, we're going to do a decrease. So I'm going to do an invisible decrease, but you can do whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm going to insert my hook into the front loops of the next 2 stitches. Yarn over, pull through. And that's the invisible decrease, but again, do whatever you feel comfortable with. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets with the blue. So 2, and then again, on the 3rd is when we're color changing. So pull up a blue loop, yarn over with white and pull through. Okay. And then with our white, we're going to continue with our 10 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then again on the 10th one, pull up just a white loop, and then go back to the blue. Okay, and we're going to keep working with the blue yarn. We're going to do 5 single crochets with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to decrease. And then we're going to finish with 10 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right, and then to start round number 14, we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 4 times with the blue. So we're going to go single, and then increase number 1, single, and then increase number 2, single, increase number 3, single, increase number 4. Okay, now we're going to do 6 single crochets with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again, we're going to color change on this one right here. So pull up a blue, switch over to white, and then 10 single crochets with the white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and color change on the 10th one. Okay. And then we're going to do 8 single crochets with our blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're going to do an increase and then a single crochet, and we're going to repeat that 4 times. So increase number 1, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3, single, increase number 4, single. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. All right. We're going to go ahead with round 15. We're going to start with 19 single crochets in the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then remember we're color changing for the 19th, so pull up a white loop or a blue loop and then switch over to white. Okay. And then go 10 single crochets with the white. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Color change back to the blue on the 10th. Okay. And then we're going to finish off this round with 19 single crochets in the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, go ahead and move the stitch marker. All right, and we're going to repeat that round for rounds 16, 17, and 18. So let's get going on round 16. Again, starting with 19 single crochets with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then remember color change on the 19th. Ten single crochets with the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, color change on the 10th. And then finish off 19 single crochets in the blue. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. I like to just make sure that all my little tails are like getting tucked in as I go. All right, round 17, we're gonna start with 20 single crochets, the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then on the 20th one, remember to color change. You probably guessed it by now, but 10 single crochets with the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and color change on the 10th. Right, and then 18 single crochets with the blue. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, go ahead and move that stitch marker. Right, round 18. Start with 19 single crochets with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, Remember to color change on the 19th. And then 10 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember to color change on the 10th. Then I'm going to start with just doing the first 9 of my single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm going to pause right there for 2 seconds, just in the middle of that round. Just kind of pull this out a little so we don't start unraveling it. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the white because it's gotten kind of tangled around my blue, so I want to get it off. And then, like I did before, I'm just going to take the short little white tail and just tie it in a knot around one of the blue ones that's right around that area. Again, I like it to be secure so that it's not going to come unraveled, especially if I'm giving it to somebody. I will always do that so they don't have to worry about it. All right, so the way our belly is yes, it's a little jagged. You can kind of adjust like the placement of some of the whites a little bit, but this way it's not going crooked or anything. It's staying fairly straight, and it just gives it a little unique look. It's not a perfect penguin. So let's go ahead and finish off this round with the remaining 10 blue single crochets. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Move that stitch marker. Right, for round 19, we're going to do a single crochet and then a decrease. We're going to repeat that 3 times to start with. So single, again, I'm doing an invisible decrease, but do whatever decrease you feel comfortable with. Single, decrease number 2. Single, decrease number 3. All right, then we're going to do 30 single crochets with, obviously we're still working just with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All right, and then to finish up this round, we're gonna do a decrease and then a single crochet, and we're gonna repeat that 3 times. So again, start with a decrease, then single, decrease number 2, single, decrease number 3, single. All right, go ahead, move your stitch marker. And then at this point, I'm going to place the safety eyes between rounds 8 and 9. So for reference on here, our color change, our first round of whites is round 10. So we're going to take this, and I like to place them on like either side of the belly. So we're just going to go up like that, just kind of on both ends, like so. And then just go ahead and stick the backs on, make sure that they kind of click into place. All right, now we have our safety eyes. Let's keep going. All right. Round 20, we're going to do 5 single crochets and a decrease, and we're repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and decrease. All right, move that stitch marker. Okay, round 21, we're going to be doing 4 single crochets and then a decrease, repeating that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. Go ahead and move that stitch marker up. Okay, round 22, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease. Right. Move the stitch marker. All right, we're gonna go ahead and stuff our penguin. So grab your stuffing. Whoops. All right, and especially with the penguin, but with any amigurumi that you stuff, you wanna make sure, so when you put it in like normal and then you push it out to the edges. That's how we wanna make sure to stuff it. So just shove it. I like to just shove in a big thing to get it started and then push it out. And the reason I said especially with the penguin is because he's got a little booty. So we want to make sure that our little booty gets stuffed plenty. So we're just gonna stuff and spread it out to the edges. And then you can kind of feel like if you want a little more, if you want less, just add it until you feel like you like the amount of stuffing. All right. And then once you get it in, I just like to, because you're pushing on it like that, it kind of makes kind of a flat head, so I just like to use my fingers and move it around. All right, just kind of move it. All right, let's finish up the bottom. Righty, round 23, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and we're repeating it 6 times. So 1, 2, decrease, 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 and then 1, 2, decrease. Go ahead, move that stitch marker. Right, round 24, we're doing a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're repeating it 6 times. So, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease. All right, at this point I am just going to take the stitch marker completely out because it gets too tight. I don't want to have to try and dig it out at the end. And then before I do the last round, I like to just make sure that now that it's a little more, I like to make sure I like the stuffing of it and just kind of fill in just a little bit more to help out the bottom to be a little firmer. Not too much. You want to go slow when you're at this point because it's really hard to unstuff it now that the hole is so small. So just make sure that you like it. Everything is how you want it. Perfect. And for the final round, round 25, we're just doing 6 decreases. And like I said, it gets really small at this point, so I like to just go back to regular decreases if you've been doing something different. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Now with this one, you want to make sure you leave a decent length of a yarn tail. And then pull it all the way through. And then to finish off, to close the penguin and to create the booty, we're going to thread it into a yarn needle. Tie on. All right. So to start, we got to close up this little hole. So we're going to take our yarn needle and we're going to put it into the front loops of every single stitch of that last round. So all of those decreases that we just did, we're just putting it into only the front loop. And then as you go, you can kind of pull on it a little and that'll help close it up. All right, perfect. Now we got to create the booty. So I like to just start by holding my penguin here, and we're just going to insert it, and then just to have it come out right below where the booty starts, kind of in the center, or as close to the center as you can get it. There's not a perfect center. And then you're going to go up and insert your hook into the top of the booty. So it's about 6 rows up. You're going to insert it, and then you're just going to bring your hook out somewhere else on the bottom. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific. And then as you pull tight, that yarn kind of disappears. That line will disappear into the body, but it creates that booty effect. And then just to secure it in place, I like to just tie a slip knot. So just go in and out like that. Leave a hole, go back through it, and pull it tight. This just creates a slip knot on the bottom, so that way our booty doesn't come undone. And then just take your yarn needle, insert it, and pull it out somewhere else. go ahead and cut it off. If you have a bunch of strings on your penguin, that's totally normal from the stuffing. It just happens. But now our penguin body is complete with our adorable belly and his adorable booty. So keeping with our blue yarn, we're gonna move on to the wings. So for the wings, we're gonna start out with our magic ring alternative. And this time we're doing 8 single crochets in that second chain from our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'm not going to use a stitch marker on the wings, but you guys totally can. So we're going to do rounds 2, 3, and 4 of just 8 single crochets around. So I just like to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then at that point, after you do the first round of 8, you should be able to flip the wing. That way your yarn tail starts going in the inside of it. All right, keep going. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and now we're gonna do 3 single crochets and then an increase, and we're gonna repeat that twice. So 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, and increase. And that was round 5. And then round 6, we're going to do 10 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then to finish off the wing, we're just gonna fold it in half and do 5 single crochets across the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Leave a little yarn tail, and you have one wing complete. Let's go ahead and make a second magic ring alternative. With 8 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 3 rounds of 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember to flip your piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. 3 single crochets and an increase. We're going to do that twice. 1, 2, 3, increase. 1, 2, 3, increase. Right. And then 10 single crochets. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, fold in half, and 5 single crochets across the top. Pull it out. And we are done with our blue yarn. All right, go ahead and grab your Sunset Sorbet Yellow. That's what we're going to be working with next. All right, so for the beak, we're kind of doing the same things that we did with the wings, just not as long. So we're going to start with our magic ring alternative with 8 single crochets in that second chain from our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're just doing 2 rounds of 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember to flip your piece. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then I like to just finish the beak off with a slip stitch. We're not single crocheting it together. If you want to, you can. It's just going to be a little bit of a flatter beak instead of a round beak. So totally up to you. But now we just have our little beak. All right. And last but not least, our feet. So we're going to start with our magic ring alternative. And we're going to do 8 single crochets with it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oops, 8. All right, now the feet is super easy. So all we're gonna do is in this first single crochet, we're gonna just start with a single crochet. We're gonna chain 2, and then we're gonna single crochet right back into that same spot. And just in that exact same spot, we're just gonna repeat that same process by single crocheting in that exact same stitch, chain 2, and then single crochet right back in. And you're going to repeat that until you have 3 little spots. And then I like to finish again just by slip stitching. Just helps it kind of fasten it off nicely, look a little more even. All right, one more little foot. Magic ring alternative with 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then in that first stitch, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet back into that same stitch, single crochet back into that same stitch, chain 1, 2, single crochet back in that same stitch, single crochet back in the same stitch, chain 1, 2, single crochet back in the same stitch, slip stitch to finish off. All right. Now that you have every single piece of your penguin built, it is time to start assembling. All right, let's get to sewing all the parts onto our baby booty penguin. All right, I like to start with the beak as the first one that I sew on. I think it just helps kind of place everything in the right spot. So we're gonna go ahead and attach the yarn tail of the beak to our yarn needle. And then as far as sewing the beak on, we are going to be sewing it in a round. We're not going to be like pinching it shut or anything, but you can do what you want. And then for placement, it's going to kind of go right there in between the two eyes. And you can choose if you want it to be higher, lower, it's totally up to you. But I like to put the beak, the top of it is going to go right in between, on the same round that we placed the eyes, so in between rounds 8 and 9, and we're just going to go right in the center of the two eyes. Whoops. Just to start with getting it attached, and then we can choose. So I like to have it covering a little of the white, I think it looks cute that way. So that's how I'm going to do it, but you can, of course, do whatever you would like. It's your penguin. And then we're just going to start sewing it on. Just again, make sure you're going in a round. If you want to make sure that you are keeping it in the right position the entire time, you can always like place it and then use take an extra yarn needle and place it in like that so that it's going through both. Like that. That kind of helps keep it in where it's supposed to be. And then just keep going with it. I have a little knot in my yarn, so that's why it's being difficult. And we're not stuffing any of the beak or anything like that. The only thing that you should have stuffed was the arms, but if you want to stuff the beak, you can. All right, and then once you get it all the way around, to finish it off, I like to just take my yarn needle, insert it right below the beak, and then just pull it out somewhere on the body, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. Go ahead and cut it off. All right. Next thing I'm going to sew on are going to be the arms. they're probably the next easiest thing to sew on. So go ahead and attach it to your yarn needle. Okay, and then for the arms, they're gonna start on the same row that the bottom of the eyes meet the belly. So right, in between rounds 9 and 10. And then we're gonna go back, and the way I like to do it is start on the side so that the part with the yarn tail is towards the eye, and we're sewing away from the eye. And then I'm just gonna place it so you come down to the belly, and we're gonna go like 3 stitches, 4 stitches away, depending on where you want it exactly. I go 4 stitches. And then just as you're holding it on, just making sure to sew it on nice, in a nice straight line, keeping it on the same round, going through those single crochets that we did across the top. And then you might get some stuffing that comes out when you're sewing. Just kind of pull it out or tuck it back in with your crochet hook. And then make sure you go through every single crochet that we did, just to make sure it is nice and tight, and then do the same thing we just did with the beak. Stick it in, pull it out somewhere else, all the way through. Go ahead and cut it off. All right. Let's go ahead and get our other arm on before we move on to the feet. It's actually a very easy project to sew. All the things are very easy to sew on. The hardest thing is probably the beak. All right, we're gonna start same thing in that same place, bottom of the eye, about 4 stitches over, and you can kind of make sure that it's like in the same place as the other one. Okay. And then just start sewing. Right, same way to finish it off. Go ahead and cut it off. And I like to just kind of ignore the stuffing that comes out of it and then fix it at the end and just pull it all out or cut it off. But, all right. Next up are the feet. Ooh. The feet are gonna be fairly easy to do. So we're gonna start with just attaching one of our feet to the yarn needle. All right, so for the feet, you wanna make sure that they are facing the front. Obviously, any other yarn tails are tucked underneath. And then you can choose what kind of angle you want your penguin's feet to be at. I kind of like to line up the middle toe with the eye and the belly, but you can choose what you want. And then I just like to keep 2 fingers from my other hand And I just like to hold it in place with those two and just get a solid 3 or 4 stitches in. This one has knots in it as well, apparently. All right, I like to get a solid 3 or 4 stitches in, and then I can kind of feel more comfortable moving my hands away. But I still always will keep one finger on the foot as I'm going. As you can see, our yarn is very strong. I was literally pulling with all of my strength right there to get it through, and it did not break. So if that ever happens and you get little knots in your yarn, it's totally fine. It happens. Or if you have to tie more yarn on because you cut it too short or whatever, it happens. It's not the best situation. It's not super fun to sew on with knots, but that's all right. All right. So then once you've sewn all around the edge of the foot, I like to leave this front part undone. I think it kind of helps the look a little bit more. But just make sure you place a stitch into the blue. And then I actually like to just kind of take one of, like you can see, sometimes there's just one random loop. Sometimes I like to just take it and sew through that just to help keep it on most of the way. That way we're not exposing any yarn tails or things like that. So it kind of helps keep everything hidden. And then just kind of put it in through a hidden hole, pull it out somewhere on the body. Go ahead, cut it off. Right, last piece, and then our baby booty penguin is complete. All right. So same thing, we're just gonna make sure that any yarn tails we have are tucked underneath. And then placing it, again, I like to line up that middle one kind of with the edge of the belly. Roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're just gonna go ahead. Same thing, keep a couple fingers. Oh, this one too. If you have a knot that you're trying to get through, and you can't get it through, use your crochet hook to kind of open it up a little more. It's kind of a pain, but it does work. Oh, all right. Anyways, apparently I'm not doing the best at sewing right now, but that's all right. Okay, go ahead and just sew this one on the same way that we sewed the other one on. Oops, caught around. Get some of the stuff out of the way as you go so that it doesn't get too tangled up in the yarn. So as you can see, I've still kind of kept my fingers on it the whole time. That just kind of helps everything stay in place. You're not, sewing a crooked leg on. So if that ever happens, the stuffing just will not stop coming out. Just cut it off. Sometimes it just gets caught on the yarn, so. All right, so go all the way around, and then this one kind of has a big hole right there. So we're gonna go ahead and just finish it off with our last stitch into the body of the penguin. And then again, one stitch kind of in the front of the foot just to kind of keep it held down. And then we're gonna insert it in and then pull it out through the middle like that. And then all I'm gonna do is just go from side to side going through the yellow. And just kind of sew it up a little bit more. Just that way it looks a little cleaner. Sometimes that happens. So, and then again, pull it out like that. Cut it off, and you are all done sewing your penguin on. I'm gonna fix this one. It kind of seemed to come a little loose on this end. So I'm gonna go back through and just kind of fix it. That's the nice thing about cutting a nice long yarn tail, is that you have plenty of yarn that you can go back and like fix any spots that kind of got messed up along the way. If you need to go back to the other side, just make sure you went back into the same hole you came out of. So I kind of did the same thing. All right. Go ahead and cut the yarn tail whenever you're done. Get all of the extra stuffing and everything off. Kind of fix the feet if they ended up kind of funky. I just like to kind of make sure that they're sitting flat. And there you have your little baby booty penguin. Super cute little belly, nice little booty on the back. And there you have it. I would love to see all of your guys' recreations of our penguin. So if you post it on social media, don't forget to tag us at Okie Dokies Crochet, and we will see you guys later.